and now it is time for the short story collection of the year. And we have In That Endlessness Our End by Gemma Files. And Gemma Files is with us right now. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I've been really, really happy with how well this collection seems to be doing, and how much it seems to be appealing to people. General aura of darkness and horrible depression
Yeah,
seems to be, very like very objective rather than
yeah,
subjective.
yeah. And I mean, in terms of that mood, it starts with the powerful, evocative title. So I'm wondering, at what point did you know that was going to be the title for the collection, and where did it come from?
It's actually a line from Distant Dark Places, and
Mm,
in that endlessness will be our end.
mm,
And I was trying to figure out what possibly could be the title, and that just occurred to me, and I effed around with it a little and went, oh yeah, okay.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we'll get sucked into the hole. We'll get sucked up into the moon. We'll end up in space. Who knows? Because it's like so many of my stories. It's like orbiting the
mm,
idea of mortality, the way that we
yeah,
do generally. We all
mm,
orbit the rim of this big black hole. None of us know where we're going to end up when we go in there, but we all know we're going there.
yes,
So
yeah. We're
she
just
said, laughing wildly.
Yeah, we're just easing in with something light to begin this segment, but
That's right. That's right.
sometimes we gotta let people know the reality of the situation, and we're all going there. We're all going to this
Yeah,
endless
and
end.
that's right. And all of the stories in this endlessness our end were written either pre-Trump or just post-Trump.
Mm,
And the interesting thing is that most of them were written before the pandemic, but it
yeah,
was really like this big existential crisis that was looming, and then it was there, and then it was like, oh
yeah,
no, it's getting worse. No, and it's like you thought it was. You thought maybe it wouldn't be quite as bad. No, no, no. It's
yeah.
it's it's exactly that bad.
Goodness, I'm wondering, do we go to distant dark places because you brought it up, or do we kind of go more chronologically? I guess the
Do you
point that
want
you
to do you
brought
want to start
distant,
with?
the point where
Yeah,
you
that's true.
mentioned distant
But
dark
but
places
the
may have.
interesting thing with
Mm,
this is how it ends, and a couple of people have said this to me, is that
mm,
it reads like a pandemic story, but it
right.
was written pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
And I had an idea for quite a while of the split, of
Mm,
this wave of doppel plague
mm, mm,
going over the earth,
yeah.
and where another version of you would pull itself out of your body, and you'd end up fighting it to the death, and
Yeah.
whoever survived, but then you wouldn't be sure, am I the duplicate or am I the original?
Yeah.
And what happens if it happens again and again and again and again? And I wasn't entirely sure what to do with it. I thought it was very Cronenbergian, and
Mm,
I love Cronenberg stuff, like any good Canadian, but it's a little hard to shove into a short story. And
mm,
then at a certain point, I realized that you know it could be done. It could be just the story of one person going through this thing, and
mm.
so I guess in a way it's like my Dawn of the Dead,
Yeah.
Dawn of,
Yeah.
Dawn of the Dupe,
Dawn of
but
the
also
Dead.
that thing which later came true of watching something develop on the internet and
Mm.
then watching it come closer and closer and closer until it's you, until it's
Mm.
you're in it, literally in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Literally in bed with another version of you, and the two of you are just
Yeah.
killing each other. Yeah. Um, I've had, as we moved into, people have been saying that a pandemic was coming for years and years. And,
Mm.
you know, the last year that I covered the Toronto Film Festival, the TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival, was the year that SARS broke.
Mm.
And yeah, that was the last time I did it for the people that I was previously writing for, and and the Twin Towers came down pretty soon after that. So
Mm.
it was sort of like two world changing events, one considerably smaller than the other, but the minute that SARS started to spread, everything shut down in terms of production in
Yeah.
Toronto. Um, they kept saying, "Watch out, this is going to move a little further out." But at that time, it was just a threat,
Mm.
And every time since then, in much the same way that when the millennium turned and nobody got raptured, you know,
Right.
people were like, the millennium bug was just a threat. It was just something people believed in, but it didn't actually happen. And oh, the world's gonna end in 2011. The world's gonna end in 2012. There's the
Mm.
world's gonna end according to the Maya calendar. The world's gonna end according to this. The planets are all gonna line up and the world's gonna end. And I think what the pandemic taught me more than anything else is that the world doesn't end,
Mm.
just keeps going.
Right.
People now are talking about the idea of a soft apocalypse. And I think a lot of the stories in that endlessness are kind of about a soft apocalypse. The apocalypse you have to live in.
Yeah.
Not even necessarily live through. We all think
Mm.
that everything's gonna, it's like one day, just the grid goes down and
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
start riding in the streets, and a bomb falls somewhere, and
Mm.
whatever, you know, a Brian Keene apocalypse, which I love,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
But no, I think my life is far more about trying to figure out how my characters negotiate their way through a series of soft apocalypses. And it
Yeah.
becomes very much about, what if you just couldn't sleep? And it
Yeah.
just went on and on and on. It's like, how far can you keep going with that? What if you hear a weird noise in what you think is the next apartment, and a strange smell, and you can't get anybody to deal with that, and it just goes in
Mm.
directions that you don't think it's going to go in. What if you what if the reason that your light fixtures don't work is because there's an eldritch abomination, lurking behind your walls?
Yeah.
And, you know, figuring that out is going to cause it to release itself, and it'll eat your boyfriend in front of you. Before you know it, you'll be living off the grid and and telling people to turn off everything that uses electricity, because we just don't know. We just don't know. And it definitely is also, I think, about mm, horror infiltrating your normal life. There are
Mm.
many, many things in that in that endlessness that
Mm.
come from directly from my life. Bulb comes directly from my life in
Yeah.
terms of how it begins. Only after three comes directly from my life, or
Mm.
always after three rather, comes directly
Mm.
from my life. Somebody used to hotbox behind the wall of my son's room, and you could never figure out who was doing it, and you could never do anything about it. Just like, oh my God, where's that weed coming from?
Right.
It's like, why do I only smell it in the baby's room?
Yeah.
Holy jeez. you know And the Puppet Motel.
Yeah.
The story of the Puppet Motel begins in real life. For, I don't know, I'd say about 3 months, I was managing 2 Airbnbs
Yeah.
in Toronto for a friend of my husband's. And one of those Airbnbs was, I swear to God, the Puppet Motel. It
Okay.
was that creepy. It
Let
was,
Yeah,
yeah, go on.
let's indulge. Let's hear more about that because the Puppet Motel is one of the most unnerving stories within the collection. I guess because like it's just so like I guess relatable in the sense that it's like that could kind of happen and
Yeah.
so I want to know what the origin of the real life things that were going on there.
Okay. So one of them was fine. We had some problems there, but they were all about, the fact that he wasn't supposed to be running an Airbnb out of a condo that he wasn't living in.
Mm,
And people would eventually I had to shut that one down because people told on us all the time,
right.
to the condo board. But the other one, nobody had ever lived in there. And I don't think that there were that many people living in the building generally. So yeah, there was a lot of traffic in and out of the Puppet Motel, and, and I swear to God, it was decorated exactly like that. The
Mm,
inside of the bathroom was black. Even the marble was black. Everything was black and gray. And you looked out the window, and all you saw was the interior courtyard, which was made of concrete. And and the light was always very strange, and there was a tone in the room.
mm,
And often you would feel like you lost time, and all the bulbs would blow all the time. And you'd always, you'd come in, turn on the lights, the bulbs would blow. You'd have to
yeah.
go around, you know with like a bag of bulbs. It's like, what
Mm,
the fuck was going on? Nobody knew. And so, no one ever really complained about it, which surprised me. Although at least one bunch of people, I think, only went there to drink,
right.
uh, and were out for most drink and watch sports.
Mm,
But I would never stay in that place ever. It's like I couldn't see myself wanting to be there for longer than it took for me to change all the sheets and do the laundry and run the vacuum cleaner and get the fuck out of there. And
yeah.
with and make sure that I had my phone set as an alarm to me,
Yeah.
so that I didn't end up staying in there longer than I had to.
Mm,
So even after that thing that happened, even after that experience, I was like, I have to use this. I have to use this somehow. And I began thinking about, the idea of a place being haunted somehow, even though it was, freshly built, and nobody had lived there, and nobody had died there, and it was like
mm,
nothing terrible had ever happened. It's just wrong. It's just like, it's like this. It's like, Lovecraftian, some
yeah.
kind of angle problem in there, and it's just touching on something. So, what's the worst thing that could happen if you were managing a place like that? You would have to stay in it.
Mm,
You would have to,
yeah. Yeah.
So I remove my husband from the picture. I, make it a, unreliable boyfriend, and I make it so the main character has to go and live in the Puppet Motel.
Mm,
And at that point, you know, the worst thing that can happen to you is that you have to go to the place that you don't want to go, and you have to stay there long enough for whatever it is that you think might happen to happen. And yeah, I had a lot of fun writing that story because it was just like, you know, it was this gleeful sense of, it's like, well, what's the worst thing that you could see
yeah.
inside the wall?
Yeah.
Oh, that's bad. That's really bad. you
Yeah.
know, okay. These days I would sketch that thing.
Mm.
Yeah, but yeah, I had a lot of fun writing that, and then the response to it was so positive. Just people going, oh my god, that scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, the thing with the non-Euclidean geometry of the floor, I actually took from another apartment that I stayed in New York once,
Mm.
where it literally made you feel queasy to be in that room. and and it took me a while to figure out why. And then I was like, oh, everything is off.
Yeah.
If I had a marble, it would zigzag down the floor if I stuck it at one end. I wouldn't even have to, I could just let it go and
Yeah.
what the fuck? It's like, and probably because, it was an old tenement apartment and I think it had
Mm.
been sinking for quite a while. But
Mm.
man, to have that feeling when you walk into a new apartment, an
Mm.
apartment where it's like everything should be fine, everything's shiny and new except for the dust and the weird shadows and what the fuck. Why does the bathroom light never work?
Mm.
So you have to take a shower in the dark.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
So, I mean,
just don't even know.
I'm
But yeah,
wondering. Oh,
yes,
yes. No, no. Please continue.
no,
There-
you
There's a
go for it.
slight delay. I
Um,
think there's a slight lag.
ask me
Well,
what you were
I was,
wondering.
yeah, because you've mentioned this Airbnb, you've mentioned the New York place. In case there's something that you're missing, I want to know what the weirdest or most
Hmm.
unnerving place you've ever stayed at or experienced is.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, when I was in high school, I went to I went to a college where they were performing a play that I had written called The Revenant,
Mm.
and I had to stay overnight it was like dead of winter, Ontario, Northern Ontario, and I had to stay overnight at a place that they called the Squid House, which was entirely inhabited by physics students. And I had never been in a place where nobody lived but dudes before.
Mm.
And it was dirty in ways that I had never encountered before in my life. Like, if you went into the bathroom, there was a ring of beard and shaving cream stuck to the inside of the sink.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about the toilet because it was horrifying. Yeah, there was just a strange combination of smells. Nothing seemed to work particularly well. Nobody cared. And in front of the TV, there was there was a coffee cup that somebody had left, and it was on its side on top of a coffee stain. And it had obviously been there for a very long time. And because the stain was totally dry and the inside of the coffee cup was totally dry. Um, so I'm sleeping downstairs, and I don't know any of these guys. I have no idea what they're like at all because you'd hear people moving around, but nobody ever came downstairs. So I'm downstairs and I'm on the couch in front of the TV, and so I'm sleeping on this couch, and there was something wrong with the lock on the front door, and it was snowing, and the wind would blow the front door open, and snow would start to come in, and I'd have to get up. And as I was trying to sleep, I'd have to get up. I'd hear this click. Yeah, I'd almost be asleep, and I'd hear this click, and I'd have to get up and go over and shut the door in such a way that it wouldn't immediately open again. And yeah, so I basically got about 2 hours sleep, I think. Slept with all my clothes on and my boots on this couch with one ear cocked constantly for the door to
Mm.
open. cold, snowy wind to start blowing in over me, with this constant thought of, what if some guy comes down in the middle of the night, some physics guy, some squid who's, it's like, oh, there's a woman in the house, comes down and does something to me. And I'm sorry, I realize that insults all physics students everywhere, but you just like, even to just like wake up and have somebody
Mm.
like standing eating cereal or something,
Yeah.
you know, going like, why didn't she take her boots off? Yeah, that was the creepiest place I've ever been.
Yeah. I've
Is that
thankfully
creepy in the right way? I don't know. I mean, I think you actually could do something with that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you made me
yeah.
think of that. I should
Yeah.
write it down.
Even just the image of like waking up and it's kind of almost snowing inside, and then there's just a guy
Yeah.
or a person standing over me silently, slowly eating cornflakes. That is like, that is so terrifying.
Yes. And it was one of those nights that just seems to go on forever. And
Mm,
you really feel like, because it was snowing all the time, it was winter, the light was very weird anyways. So, even during the day, you'd be sort of like, is it morning, is it afternoon,
yeah,
is the sun going down or coming up? I can't tell. Anyway,
yeah, yeah. So
also they
I
totally fucked up my play, but
right. Oh God. Yeah, yeah.
and they didn't even put my name on the program. They presented it as though, you've heard of a movie that directs itself. They presented
mm,
it as though this was a play that wrote itself.
yeah, yeah. Well, that is a continuing problem of writers not being fully credited for what they wrote or for the
That's
original
certainly
source
true.
material. That is something that has come up numerous times
Yeah.
as a
Although
specific.
I guess
Yeah,
you should
yeah,
expect it more often when you're 17 or whatever.
right. Yeah, yeah. But
Oh.
no, I kind of hope that you do something with, this stay in this place where the door opens and the snow comes in, and you've got
Mm,
all these like people that live in the house too, but you never really see
yeah, that you
them.
never
Like
see.
I'm,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
It's very Aikman, really, when you think
mm,
about it. That weird liminal space. You're stuck inside of
yeah,
somebody else's house.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
How did you get there? Can you leave? Is it possible? You know,
right,
it's like the endless journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, as soon
Go
as you
up on
said
yeah,
a.
that, I was like, yeah, that's definitely Robert Aikman.
It's true. It's absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I never think of myself in context with Aikman, but I was reading Linda E. Rucker's most recent collection, and she can do Aikman like chef's
mm,
kiss. It's she's got that thing. She's got that particular knack of
mm,
writing strange stories, not just weird stories, but
yeah,
those things that
yeah,
sort of feel like, is this a dream? Am I
mm,
here? It's like,
yeah,
where are we going with this? I'm fascinated, and yeah, I am definitely excited and terrified, as the old meme goes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I guess if you were to indulge this story thread as well, if you could come up with a reason why the protagonist had to stay in the house for an extended period of time, because they're not sleeping properly, they're gonna
Mhm.
get more and more insane. They might start having hallucinations as well because of the sleep deprivation.
It's true.
Like, like I guess with the snow, it's like just turn it into some crazy snowstorm. So then there's a reason why they can't possibly
That's
leave.
exactly it. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. The trains are frozen,
yeah,
the roads are blocked,
mm,
you can't get out on, and of course, because the protagonist would be me, I
yeah,
can't drive. So I
right,
have no, it's like, this always adds a weird sort of horror to traveling generally, because
mm,
it's like I get in a car, somebody drives me somewhere, And if they
Yeah.
leave, I'm
Yeah.
screwed because it's like I'm gonna walk back from Gananoque.
Yeah.
I'm gonna walk back from Overdeer. Some
Yeah.
part of Ontario that I made up. Pretty
Right.
soon I'm gonna be stopping at a store on the in Lake of the North District and going, oh
Right.
my God, do you have a phone? No, we took those out.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, there's always some sort of weird. Yeah, I don't know. Toronto's a bit like that. Definitely the part of Toronto that I live in, because
Mm.
we live right downtown, and we're almost. Often my mom will want to walk down to the lakeshore, and the entire lakeshore was constructed by laying stone and concrete out into the lake.
Mm.
So
Wow.
that's I live in the place that's going to disappear when the lake starts
Yeah.
to rise. you know, People will be boating out the front door.
Yeah.
And there's this sort of tenuousness about, particularly now with the pandemic.
Mm.
A lot of places have just shut, and you walk by a place and you're like, wasn't that open like a week ago?
Yeah.
Or a month ago, or maybe it was a year ago. Shit, I haven't been out as much as I usually am. you know, um, Birds you've never seen before suddenly showing up in the lake. It's like, wow, those. What the hell are those? Oh, apparently they
Yeah.
come from the Arctic. Why? you know,
Mm.
Everything seems sort of low grade, liminal, and low grade, slippy slidey, like timey
Yeah.
wimey.
Yeah.
And the layers of oddity just sort of press down and press down until you're looking through them like a strange funneled um, piece of old glass from
Yeah.
you know like the
Yeah.
Victorian era.
Right.
A
Right.
window made of bottles, bottle
Yeah.
bottoms.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. See, now I'm imagining you kind of looking out onto the lake and you just see, oh, there's a house kind of just moving. And so
Yep.
you know exactly where I'm going to segue now into Come Closer.
Okay, come closer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And
I was,
I,
I was very surprised at how people took to come closer.
mm,
Um, and and once more, this was based on real events. Two real events. The first one was that I was walking past a house which was completely covered in vines and
mm,
completely dilapidated and completely, just looked like you couldn't understand why it was still there, like it was being
mm,
held up by trees.
right.
you know, has nobody thought to rid themselves of this terrible house? But the weird part was that it was right next to the University of Toronto. So
Mm,
it's like over here, nice, neat, clean, brutalist
yeah.
architecture. It's like from the '70s at the absolute most, and over here, Vine House. And so about the week after, and I took a picture of it because it was just so weird. And
Mm,
about a week after I saw the house, I was walking down one of the streets near where I live and following a path that my family and I used to take to go to the Cooper Coo Y on Cherry Street, and which we haven't done for a long time because of the pandemic.
yeah.
And I thought, what would be really weird would be if that house was on this street. If I was like, I looked across the street and I went, isn't that house I took a picture of?
Yeah.
And then every time I walked down the street, the house was getting closer. It
Mm,
was just moving along the street. Um, and again, this is like an inversion of the same way that the Puppet Motel is like an inversion of the old model of the haunted house. So it becomes, haunted apartment, haunted place without history, new place. And what is it haunted by? It's not haunted by a ghost per se. This is like an inversion of the haunted house model, where it's the house itself that is pursuing you. It's the house itself that is haunting you. And eventually, what can possibly happen except the house will engulf the place that you live in, and you will wake up inside the house.
Yeah.
And there's also that idea that I think runs through a lot of my stories, that if you notice something, it will notice you.
Yeah.
The very act of
Mm.
the very act of observing, creates a sort of connection between you and the thing that you observe.
Mm.
The act of, going, well, that's a little strange, creates the strangeness.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
but it was fun. It came out really fast, which is always nice, because sometimes I think I'm a very slow writer.
Right.
And other people are like, what the fuck are you talking about? I've written like 150 short stories. I'm like, over 30 years.
Right. Right.
But still, I think every writer wants to write faster.
Mm.
And, to get the idea, and then the story just craps itself out, Tommy Knocker style. It's like you go to sleep with something on your head, and in the morning you wake up and there's a book there. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, this is brilliant. Fuck. It's like when
Yeah.
Gay wrote it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it came out really fast, and that final thing of waking up inside the house, that was
Mm.
nightmarish in a way that actually seemed like it could have been a nightmare, like that I've
Yeah.
had. So that's always a happy making thing for me.
Yeah.
Sounds odd, but it's true. And it's like, oh, that's going to scare people. Yay.
Yeah. So, I mean, on that note, have you ever written something, and in writing it, at times, perhaps that kind of time between, sleep and consciousness, where there's part of you that's like, wait, was that a story? Was that real? Did that actually happen to me? And I wonder too, and this is going in a somewhat interesting direction, but do you think, and I asked Jonathan Jans about this too, that in creating something, in writing fiction, do we make some of these realities kind of real? Do we make the fictitious part of reality on some level?
Hmm. It's a good question. I do think that you know I guess I'm a fan of the multiverse theory, the idea
Mm,
that if whatever you think of
mm,
can possibly be in some other version of reality, that
mm,
the minute that something is contemplated, it sort of creates itself um,
mm,
in uh, in an alternate time slash space. But what I will say is that I think that that idea of dreaming awake
mm,
is very precious when you're writing horror. I see it all the time in Brian Evanson's
mm.
work, where you just like, I don't know where you got that from. I have no idea, and it's beautiful. It's
Yeah,
where you're just like, oh, okay, so you have to go into the spacesuit and go through the spacesuit and end up in a completely different spaceship, and that's the only way to get out of this spaceship.
yeah,
Okay. It's like, I swear to God, he must have like a pad by his bedside, where he's just like, he's almost asleep and he's
yeah,
writing.
yeah,
But one of the things that I will point out is that sleep hygiene um,
yes.
is not only about insomnia. It was written
Mm,
during a period where I was super insomniac,
mm,
and almost everything that was happening in the story was happening to me, and to the extent that about a year after I wrote that story, I was looking through my stuff that was on my hard drive, on my desktop, and I was like, sleep hygiene, is this mine? Did I write this? And I opened it
Yeah.
up, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh fuck, yes, I did write this story. I wrote it when I was severely sleep deprived, which is why I don't remember anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was your Tommy
Yeah.
Knockers moment.
It was my Tommy Knockers moment, but, I remember writing it. It's like
Yeah.
after I thought about it for a while, I was like, "Oh,
Mm.
yeah, I do remember writing that." It was one of those, again, it's sort of like, "Gemma, didn't I ask you for a short story?" "Oh, shit, you did."
Yeah.
"Oh, gotta put something together."
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Similarly, the Church in the Mountains,
Mm.
for years and years and years, I have had this memory of watching a movie
Mm.
that involves a girl coming home to her to her weird aunt's house, which is also like a church.
Mm.
And her mother has died, and she's come to get her inheritance. And the back, her back breaks open, and something comes out of it.
Yeah.
And I, you know, I know I saw this film, and I've described it to a bunch of people, and they've been like, "Oh, that sort of sounds like X," or "That sort of sounds like Y," and I'll check out
Mm.
X or Y, and I'm still not sure which one of these it was, if it was any of them, or if it was a nightmare that I had at one point.
Yeah.
But when I was asked to write a story about a cursed or haunted film,
Yeah.
I that's where I went. I was like, yeah, all right, let's pursue this. Let's pursue this to the end. Let's go as far as we can go. Let's do that
Yeah.
Cronenbergian thing. You have to go
Yeah.
all the way through it to the end.
Mm. Yeah.
Let Videodrome take over and crap out a piece of new flesh. It's got eyes everywhere. Are those fingernails?
Yeah, it's a dangerous tactic to let Videodrome take over. This is
Always,
this is
always.
not anything that people listening can sue us for. We are not responsible. This is purely
No.
anecdotal. So
Yeah, exactly. If you start hearing the signal, that's not my
yeah,
problem.
yeah.
Your personal Videodrome stream. It's
Mm,
like, a
yeah,
mud wall. That looks so wet and maybe electrified.
yeah, yeah. Oh God, yeah. But as
So, yeah, I've been so happy with this collection, and I'm really, really glad that you guys liked it too, and that everybody
yeah,
did.
yeah, and I
Um,
mean, to be with Grimscribe as well. I mean,
Hmm.
John Paget. It just feels like
yeah.
it is the perfect match. It's got the
Oh, thank you.
existentialism. It's
Oh, yeah.
got the absolute
Yeah.
unease. That there is something
Hmm.
Ligotti about it. If I guess in just approach in terms of the way in which the world is viewed, if that makes sense. I mean, it.
No, I think that's true. I mean, I know when
Mm,
I had to do a story for a Ligotti tribute,
mm,
I at first I thought, how can I possibly do this? Because his language is so specific, and
mm,
the way that he structures his stories,
mm,
very, very difficult to replicate. And then I was like, Gemma, just look for an idea that has Ligottian themes that maybe
mm,
you're already working on, that you've been noodling around with, and then immediately it fell into place. And I think he and I do share a lot of attitudes, not all attitudes. I'm not exactly an antinatalist.
Yeah.
I did have a kid, so it's hard to do that, and live with yourself, I think, if you're an antinatalist. But,
Right.
but there is this part of me that is just like, well, how can we debate that the life that we know and the domestic details of that life are a very thin scrim over a scream of existential agony?
Mm.
It's
Wow.
it's hard to debate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like we can forget it and we can ignore it and we can try to live with it, but we are animals who know that we're going to die.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we measure maturity by, I think, is the moment that you realize, yeah, everything's a little impermanent.
Yeah.
She said, smiling widely.
Do you, do you remember the moment when you came to that realization?
Yeah, I do. I remember the first moment, and it was when I read um, Robinson Crusoe,
Mm.
and I was pretty young. I think I might have been 7, and it's the kind of household that we were. But yeah, I was reading through Robinson Crusoe, and we get to the end of the chapter where he swims back to the boat and he takes everything that he can off of it.
Mm.
And then he looked at what he had brought, and he thought that with a little work, he could live comfortably on this island for the rest of his life.
Mm.
And at that moment, I thought, yeah, but what then?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when things start to percolate. When
Mm.
you're like, but what then? Okay,
Yeah.
so eternity, but what then?
Yeah.
So your whole life, but what then? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I guess it's the slightly older child's version of, but why? Yeah. And we were, it's like I knew that the sky was blue over black pretty early on because my parents took me to the planetarium. I knew
Mm.
that there were bones inside of the body pretty early on because my parents took me to the museum.
Mm.
I knew that people died because my dad was interested in history and archaeology, and so was I.
Mm.
Um, and if people don't die, then how are they buried? Why
Yeah.
would you bury them? And how do they have tombs, etc.? And so, but there's that moment where it clarifies, and you're like, but not me.
Yeah.
And then you're like, nah, you too,
Yeah.
but what then?
Yeah. I
You know.
remember,
So yes,
from
the
mm.
the big black
Mm.
hole that we orbit is the center of in
Yeah.
that endlessness our end, and increasingly, I guess it's the center of everything I do. But I try to make it a good ride. I try to
Mm.
make it enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah. Well.
Tell you some fun stuff. Yeah, tell you some fun stuff. Maybe there's some hot whatever going on. Fun characters.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really happy where I am right now, which is really pleasant, you know. And I don't. Is there anything else that you want to ask me?
Well, I'm almost terrified to ask this, and this could simultaneously be an impossible question to answer, and at the same time could be something that goes on forever. But I mean, I'm wondering, what are your own personal beliefs in terms of what actually happens after death? Because there seem to be like a number of different things going on in terms of what you're saying, and of course, like, I mean, on, yeah, please
I, I
let
mean,
us know.
I think we talked about this at one point. Um, yeah, and basically, how I like to think about it is, a bit like that endless monologue at the end of God, what is it called? Uh, anyways, the point being that I like to think that we're energy that is briefly given form, and that while you're enfleshed, you love people and you get love from people. You try to be kind, you know. As I get older, I realize that anger really is an energy, and it's an expenditure that I'm not prepared to give anymore. It's not practical for me. So I try to be kind because it's easier than being hateful and hurtful. I think when you damage other people, you damage yourself in a lot of ways. You hold a lot of pain and a lot of well, not evil, but you know what I mean. It's like it's kind of
Yeah.
malign, and
Yeah.
you make yourself less sensitive. You make yourself, you think you're making yourself strong, but you're actually just making yourself numb. And so I think that to some degree is the lesson of being alive. The lesson of being alive is to try and be kind, and
Yeah.
to live with other people, and to not damage other people, and to not be damaged by other people, and to love other people, and to be loved by other people, and to help other people and be helped by other people. But the fact is that we all face that last moment alone. And at that point, I think the best thing to think about it is, you know, Dan Cummins, the podcaster slash comic, says that he believes in mystery, that, just nobody knows, nobody can know. And so why not look forward to it? Why not, be like, well, it might be good, might be great, and if it's not, you're not going to know. you know, either you go to sleep or you open your eyes on something bigger and stranger and more amazing than anything that human life can offer. So yeah, that's the way that I try to think about it. And
Yeah.
then it's like 5 o'clock in the morning and I haven't slept all night and I'm like, I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yes, I hope that we're energy that is reintegrated with a larger stream of energy, and suddenly you are like Dr. Dappertuto, everywhere at once,
Yeah.
everything at once, everyone at once, and then you stop worrying about it.
Yeah. And I know that
That's
we
the hope.
had previously spoke about it briefly, but I did think, number one, I'm
Mm.
knowledge and thoughts are constantly evolving, and it's been a number of years,
Oh,
so I wanted
absolutely,
to
yeah.
see, what are your thoughts now? Because
Well, and we went through a whole
yeah,
pandemic. We
yeah,
went through a
yeah,
whole, the
yeah,
last time we spoke, I think I'd just come off of a panic attack the day
yeah,
before.
yeah,
And yeah, it's like, but like I said, I just feel that whatever we're in it. And to some degree, what we're in is our lives. And
yeah,
we know that, you know, that everyone's life is a soft apocalypse. It's like it's a process of losing things. It's a process of, your body breaking down. It's a process of, it's a process of learning things that you don't want to learn.
mm,
And then it ends.
yeah,
Slow or fast, sooner or later. Um, and in the meantime, write some horror. Might make you feel
Alright.
better. Might make you feel worse. Who knows?
Yeah,
But it's the only
yeah,
thing that I can do, so I keep on
yeah,
doing it.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations again to you and to In That Endlessness Our End on Short Story
Thank you very much
Collection
for
of the
having
Year.
me. Thank you
Yeah.
very much
Okay.
for having me. And I am so, so grateful and happy to receive this honor, because it is an honor.
Okay.
Should I mention some of the stuff that's happening right now? I
Uh,
have another collection coming out with Grimscribe in October,
Oh,
probably, called
oh
Blood from the
boy.
Air. I've got
oh
I've
yeah.
got a new collection out right now called Dark is Better from Trepidatio. Um, both of those follow my usual stupid model of, these are um, stories that have already been published somewhere, but a lot of them have been published in places that people might not have seen the stories. So bringing them all together is a
Mm,
fun thing to do. Dark is Better contains Each Thing I Show You Is a Piece of My Death, for example.
mm,
But it also has a lot of similarly uh, creepy urban stuff um,
mm,
from many other different places, many of which might be a little more obscure. Um, and uh, and as you mentioned, I have a podcast
yes.
called No Darkness But Ours, in which I and Simon Bestwick, the brilliant, Simon Bestwick, and very fun Simon Bestwick,
Yeah.
um, we interview people. Most recently, we interviewed Paula Ash. That isn't up yet, but our interview with Linda E. Rucker is
Mm,
uh, continuing. I think the first part of that is up now. And we interview people, and we also talk about various types of horror. And it's really fun.
all
Just
right.
two buds talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
horror.
Oh, yeah. We will put
Oh,
a link to that in the show notes, and
Cool.
I
all
know,
right.
from Bob's reaction too, we're both really looking forward to that new short story collection as well, and it's fantastic
Yeah.
too to see Each Thing I Show You Is a Piece of My Death in a collection, because that's such a bloody
Yeah, I
brilliant
know.
story.
Oh
So I'm
yeah.
glad that that's finally
100%
happening.
there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It took a really long time, mainly because um, all I'll say is that it was with one publisher, and then it went to
Yeah.
Trepidatio, and it just took a really long time to come out.
Yeah.
But it's out. It's out. Yes. Oh, Paula Ash is up for the Ram Stoker Award for "We Are Here to Hurt Each Other." And
Oh,
man, if you guys haven't read that, you should read it. And if and think about interviewing her, because she is really cool and really
yeah.
fun to talk.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.